Mansion of Secrets, the betrayal that shook a dynasty. In a city where the glare of success eclipses the shadows of disappointment, an intricate plot of ambition, love, and betrayal was beginning to unfold. The setting was the imposing Montero mansion, a symbol of wealth and power that hid secrets as old as its century-old walls. It was on this grand stage that Esteban, a young real estate agent with dreams bigger than his salary, decided to roll the dice in a dangerous game. His target, Adriana Montero, the enigmatic widow of a banking magnate whose fortune was the subject of countless rumors and covetousness. Esteban, with his calculated charm and unchecked ambition, saw in Adriana not just the key to the luxurious life he always desired, but also the opportunity to leave behind an existence he considered mediocre. What he didn't know was that each step toward the Montero mansion led him deeper into a labyrinth of lies, where every corridor hid a truth more shocking than the last. While Esteban wove his web of seduction, he was unaware that he was just a pawn in a much larger game, orchestrated by invisible hands that had been manipulating the threads of fate for decades. At the other end of this web was Emily, Esteban's devoted girlfriend, a teacher whose life had been built on the pillars of honesty and hard work. Emily, with her heart full of love and hope, watched helplessly as the man she loved drifted further away, pulled by currents of ambition she could not understand. Her eyes, once bright with affection, now clouded with tears of doubt and fear. Emily sensed that something was deeply wrong, but she could not imagine the magnitude of the storm that was approaching. Her world, until then predictable and secure, was about to be turned upside down by revelations that would challenge everything she believed she knew about herself and those she loved. Meanwhile, in the silent corridors of the Montero mansion, other figures moved in the shadow. Alberto, the seemingly loyal butler, whose watchful eyes guarded secrets capable of destroying empires. Raquel, the discreet maid, whose true identity was a key to unraveling a mystery that stretched back generations. And Adriana, the widow whose heart hid wounds as deep as the vault that held her late husband's fortune. As the days passed, tension grew like a storm forming on the horizon. Every shared smile, every fleeting glance, every seemingly innocent conversation was a thread being woven into a complex tapestry of deception and revelation. The city's streets, once so familiar, now seemed to hide dangers around every corner. The Montero mansion, imposing on its hill, cast a long shadow over the lives of everyone involved, a shadow that threatened to swallow truth and innocence. It was a world where nothing was as it seemed, where love could be as dangerous a weapon as any gun, and where truth was a treasure more valuable than all the gold hidden in bank vaults. As Esteban approached his goal, Emily struggled to maintain faith in the man she loved, and the gears of a decades-long plan began to turn inexorably. The stage was set for a saga of shocking revelations, impossible choices, and unexpected redemption, a story that would prove that sometimes you must lose everything to discover who you truly are. In the city of Oakville, a bustling metropolis where skyscrapers competed with historic mansions for attention, the Wilson residence stood out as a monument to wealth and power. This imposing Victorian structure, with its ornate towers and meticulously maintained gardens, was home to Catherine Wilson, the enigmatic widow of an oil magnate. Catherine, a woman in her early 60s, carried an aura of mystery that only intensified her mature beauty. Her green eyes, as deep as emeralds, seemed to hold secrets that few dared to imagine. The Wilson mansion was not just her residence, but a symbol of an empire built on foundations whose true nature was known by very few. In this scene of opulence, Jason Reed entered, a 32-year-old ambitious real estate agent. With his charismatic smile and impeccable suit, Jason hid behind his polished facade a life filled with frustrations and growing debts. His office at Sunset Realty was more a facade than a beacon of success, and each day brought with it the weight of unrealized dreams and unpaid bills. For Jason, Catherine Wilson represented more than a potential client. She was the key to the life he had always dreamed of, an opportunity to escape the mediocrity that suffocated him. With unwavering determination, Jason devised a bold plan to win the heart and consequently the fortune of Catherine Wilson. As Jason prepared for his first casual meeting with Catherine at the elegant Café Lumière, just a few blocks from the Wilson mansion, another story was unfolding. Olivia Parker, a dedicated 30-year-old literature teacher, looked out the window of her modest apartment, her heart heavy with worry. Olivia and Jason had been a couple for 5 years, building dreams together and facing hardships side by side. But in recent weeks, something had changed. Jason had become distant. His vague explanations about late meetings and important new clients increasingly sounded like empty excuses to Olivia's ears. She could not imagine that the man she loved was about to embark on a journey that would forever change their lives. At the Wilson mansion, the butler Charles watched the day's preparations with keen eyes. Charles, a 60-year-old man with grey hair and impeccable posture, was more than just an employee. For 3 decades, he had been the silent guardian of the Wilson family's secrets, his unwavering loyalty concealing a complex web of knowledge and alliances that few could comprehend. As he supervised the cleaning of the main hall, his eyes lingered for a moment on the portrait of the late Mr. Wilson. What did that painting hide behind its enigmatic smile? What secrets lay buried in the foundations of the Wilson fortune? Upstairs, Sarah, the new housekeeper, moved silently through the corridors. At just 28 years old, Sarah hid behind her modest and efficient appearance, a sharp mind and purposes that went far beyond her domestic duties. Her true name and identity were known only to a select group in Washington, and her presence in the Wilson mansion was the result of years of careful planning. As she fluffed the pillows in the master bedroom, Sarah mentally catalogued every detail, every object, every nuance of the house's routine. Her mission was just beginning, and the fate of many depended on her ability to maintain her cover. In the mansion's library, Catherine Wilson was leafing through an old photo album absent-mindedly. Her hands, adorned with diamond rings, trembled slightly as she flipped through images from a past that seemed increasingly distant. She paused on a specific photo, her and her late husband George, in front of one of their first oil wells. George's smile, so full of promises and secrets, still had the power to quicken her heart. Catherine closed the album with a sigh, her thoughts drifting back to the present and the threats looming on the horizon. She knew that the walls of the Wilson mansion held secrets capable of shaking the foundations of society, and her position as the guardian of these secrets was both a privilege and a curse. On the other side of the city, in a stark office at the Department of Justice, Special Agent Michael Thompson studied a hefty dossier. His face, marked by years of complex investigations, was tense with concentration. The Wilson case was more than just a simple financial fraud investigation. It was a tangled web of political connections, suspicious transactions, and shadowy alliances stretching back decades. Michael knew he was about to pull a thread that could unravel a deeply entrenched network of corruption, but he was also acutely aware of the risks involved. How many lives would be affected when the truth finally came to light? Back at Café Lumière, Jason Reed adjusted his tie, his eyes fixed on the door, waiting for Catherine Wilson's arrival. His heart raced, a mix of anticipation and nerves coursing through his veins. This moment, he thought, was the first step toward a new life. What Jason didn't know was that each step he took was leading him deeper into a labyrinth of lies and danger from which there would be no easy return. As the clock ticked on, the destinies of Jason, Olivia, Catherine, Charles, Sarah, and everyone else involved in this complex plot began to intertwine in ways none of them could have foreseen. The city of Oakville, with its secrets and ambitions, was about to become the stage for a saga of love, betrayal, redemption, and long-buried truth. As the sun set over the gleaming skyscrapers and imposing mansions, a new story started to unfold. A story that would prove that sometimes the deepest and most dangerous secrets are those we keep from ourselves. Jason Reed entered Café Lumière with the confidence of a man on a mission. His eyes swiftly found Catherine Wilson, sitting elegantly by the window, her presence commanding attention even in such a sophisticated place. With a rehearsed move, Jason accidentally bumped into Catherine's table, spilling his own coffee. "Oh, I'm so sorry," he exclaimed, his face a perfect mask of embarrassment and charm. Catherine looked up, her green eyes meeting Jason's, and for For a moment, time seemed to freeze. "Don't worry, dear," she replied with a soft smile. "Accidents happen." This casual encounter was the first of many, carefully orchestrated by Jason to look like the coincidences of fate. In the weeks that followed, Jason devoted every free moment to crossing paths with Catherine. At the park, where she took her morning walks, in the art gallery, where she was a patron, even at the gourmet supermarket she frequented. Each encounter was an opportunity for Jason to showcase his charm, intelligence, and understanding of the sophisticated world Catherine inhabited. He researched extensively, memorizing details about art, fine wines, and classical literature, all to create the image of a refined and cultured man, worthy of Catherine's attention. Their conversations evolved from polite exchanges to deep discussions about life, love, and aspiration. Jason painted the picture of an ambitious yet sensitive man, someone who understood the weight of the loneliness Catherine bore. As Jason's plan unfolded, Olivia Parker felt the chasm between her and the man she loved grow wider each day. Lonely nights became more frequent, and unanswered messages piled up on her phone. When Jason was home, he seemed distant, lost in thoughts he didn't share. Olivia tried to convince herself it was just a phase, that work stress was affecting Jason, but in her heart, she knew something deeper was happening. One night, as Jason slept, Olivia couldn't resist the temptation to check his phone. What she found, enigmatic messages, unexplained appointments, only heightened her suspicions and fear. At the Wilson mansion, Charles watched with growing concern the subtle changes in Catherine's behavior, the more frequent smiles, the renewed sparkle in her eyes, the extra attention given to her appearance. All signs the experienced butler recognized all too well. He had seen Catherine go through similar phases before, moments of hope that invariably ended in disappointment. Charles knew his duty extended beyond merely managing the household. He was Catherine's unofficial protector, and something about this new man in her life aroused his distrust. With impeccable discretion, Charles began his own investigation into Jason Reed. Sarah, the housekeeper with a hidden agenda, also noticed the changes in the mansion's routine, the preparations for intimate dinners, the whispered phone calls Catherine made when she thought no one was around, the new dresses delivered with increasing frequency. Each detail was carefully recorded and transmitted in coded reports to her superiors. Sarah's mission was becoming more complicated. The emergence of this new player, Jason Reed, was not anticipated in her meticulous plans. She knew she needed to adapt her strategy, finding a way to leverage this new dynamic to her advantage without compromising her cover. As Jason moved closer to his goal, he faced an unexpected dilemma. The conversations with Catherine, initially part of his calculated plan, began to resonate on a deeper level. He found himself looking forward to their meetings, not just for what they represented financially, but for the genuine pleasure of her company. Catherine was more than the wealthy widow he initially saw. She was a complex woman with a sharp mind and a heart that carried as much love as it did pain. Jason began to question his own motivations, the weight of his deception increasingly burdening his conscience. Determined to understand what was happening in her relationship, Olivia decided to take more drastic measures. She started discreetly following Jason, her heart breaking each time she saw him entering expensive restaurants or walking through upscale neighborhoods far beyond their means. One afternoon, she saw him enter the Wilson mansion, and the realization of what was happening hit her like a punch in the stomach. The sight of Jason being warmly welcomed by an elegant older woman confirmed her worst fears. That night, when Jason came home with yet another elaborate excuse, Olivia struggled to hold back the tears and anger threatening to overflow. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Catherine allowed herself to dream again. Jason brought a light into her life that she hadn't felt in years. His stories about growing up in a humble family and struggling to establish himself in the real estate world resonated with her own memories of building an empire alongside her late husband. Catherine began to imagine a future where she would no longer be alone, where she could share not just her wealth, but also the secrets and responsibilities she had been carrying for so long. However, a voice in her mind, which strangely resembled Charles's, warned her to be cautious. She had been hurt before, and the risks of trusting the wrong person were greater than ever. At the Department of Justice, Agent Michael Thompson received regular updates on the situation at the Wilson mansion. Jason Reed's introduction into the equation added a new layer of complexity to the case. Thompson wondered if Reed was just another innocent victim about to be dragged into the whirlwind of secrets and lies, or if he could be a new player with his own agenda. The agent knew he had to proceed with extreme caution. A wrong move could not only compromise years of investigation, but also put lives at risk. As days turned into weeks, the web of relationships and secrets became increasingly complex. Jason, torn between his ambition and the unexpected feelings he was developing for Catherine. Olivia, grappling with the pain of betrayal and the uncertainty about her future. Catherine, balancing the hope of new love with the weight of the secrets she carried. Charles and Sarah, each with their own agendas, watching and manipulating the events within the mansion. And behind the scenes, larger forces were moving, ready to spring into action at the right moment. The city of Oakville was about to become the stage for a dramatic revelation. As the dance of seduction between Jason and Catherine continued, the gears of a much larger investigation were beginning to turn behind the scenes. In Special Agent Michael Thompson's office, an entire wall was covered with photos, documents, and lines connecting people and events. At the center of this complex web was the image of George Wilson, Catherine's late husband. Thompson spent hours studying every detail, every suspicious transaction, every shadowy connection linking Empire Oil, the Wilsons' company, to a vast network of money laundering and corporate corruption. The agent knew he was close to unraveling a scheme that would shake the foundations of Oakville's financial and political world. Sarah, the housekeeper with a secret, intensified her investigations at the Wilson mansion. Taking advantage of every moment Catherine was distracted, she searched documents, explored hidden safes, and planted listening devices in strategic locations. One night, while everyone slept, Sarah managed to access Catherine's personal computer. What she found made her heart race. Encoded emails, bank transfers to offshore accounts, names of politicians and executives involved in shady deals. Sarah knew she had found the tip of the iceberg, but she also realized that the more she uncovered, the greater the danger she faced. She quickly sent the information to her superiors, knowing that every byte of data could be crucial in dismantling the operation. Charles, the loyal butler, watched Sarah's activities with growing suspicion. His years of experience had endowed him with a sixth sense for detecting threats to the Wilson family, and something about the new housekeeper seemed off. One afternoon, Charles caught Sarah hurriedly leaving Catherine's office, a flash drive concealed in her hand. At that moment, he made a decision. It was time to inform Catherine of his suspicions. However, as he prepared for the conversation, Charles faced a moral dilemma. Revealing the truth about Sarah would also mean exposing secrets he had sworn to protect for decades. Secrets that, if revealed, could destroy not just Catherine, but the entire Wilson legacy. Jason, immersed in his conquest plan, began to notice disturbing details in his conversations with Catherine. Casual mentions of complex international deals, references to powerful politicians, discussions about financial maneuvers that seemed to go beyond the usual scope of an oil company. His curiosity and ambition drove him to investigate more deeply. Using his research skills and his new contacts in the world of the rich and powerful, Jason began piecing together a much larger and more dangerous puzzle than he had ever imagined. Each new discovery left him more torn between his desire for wealth and the growing realization that he was getting involved in something potentially illegal and certainly dangerous. Olivia, determined to uncover the truth about Jason's activities, decided to use her own connections. As a literature teacher, she had access to a diverse network of former students, including journalists and public officials. Under the pretense of researching for a novel, Olivia began asking questions about Empire Oil and the Wilson family. What she uncovered left her stunned. Rumors of bribes, allegations of covered-up environmental damage, and whispers about connections with international cartels. Olivia found herself in an ethical dilemma. Should she confront Jason with this information or take her findings directly to the authorities? At the Department of Justice, Agent Thompson received an urgent urgent call from his informant inside Empire Oil. "They're moving," the tense voice on the other end said. "Large sums are being transferred. I think they know we're getting close." Thompson knew that time was running out. He called an emergency meeting with his team, aware that the next 48 hours would be crucial. Plans were drawn up, search warrants were prepared, and agents were strategically positioned around Oakville. The net was ready to close, but Thompson feared the ramifications. How many lives would be affected when the truth came to light? Catherine, sensing the growing tension around her, began to take measures to protect her interests. She made calls to her late husband's old associates, activated dormant accounts, and prepared escape routes. However, amid these frantic preparations, she found herself thinking about Jason. He had become more than just an enjoyable distraction. Catherine was beginning to see him as a potential ally, someone she could trust amidst the approaching storm. She contemplated revealing the truth to him, bringing him into her inner circle of trust. But a life of secrets made her hesitate. Could she really trust this man she had known for so little time? Meanwhile, in the corridors of power in Oakville, politicians and executives began to feel the heat of the impending investigation. Secret meetings were held, documents were destroyed, and contingency plans were activated. The mayor of Oakville, a man who owed his position to the financial backing of Empire Oil, spent sleepless nights weighing his options. Should he preempt the investigations and confess his involvement, or risk everything in the hope that the web of lies and corruption would withstand yet another assault? As the pressure mounted, cracks began to appear in the carefully constructed facade of Oakville's high society. Long-standing friendships were tested, loyalties questioned, and fear spread like a virus. At elegant parties and business meetings, whispered conversations revolved around who might be cooperating with authorities, who might be the next to fall. The entire city seemed to be on the brink, waiting for the moment when the first domino would fall, triggering a chain reaction that no one could control. At the epicenter of all this, Jason found himself at a crossroads. The information he had uncovered placed him in a unique and dangerous position. He could use this knowledge to secure his place alongside Catherine, becoming part of the inner circle that controlled the Wilson Empire. Or he could do the right thing and share what he knew with the authorities, potentially destroying not only his dreams of wealth, but also the woman for whom he was developing genuine feelings. As night fell over Oakville, Jason looked out the window of his small apartment, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. The decisions he would make in the coming hours would not only shape his future, but would have repercussions that would echo throughout the city and beyond. Morning arrived in Oakville with a deceptive calm. For Olivia Parker, however, the quiet was shattered by the shrill ring of her phone. The voice on the other end belonged to a former student, now a junior archivist at the city courthouse. "Miss Parker, you won't believe what I found," he said, his voice trembling with excitement. "I was organizing some old files and, well, I think you should see this for yourself." Intrigued and apprehensive, Olivia made her way to the courthouse, unaware that she was about to uncover a truth that would change her life forever. In the dusty archive, Olivia opened an age-yellowed folder with trembling hands. Her eyes scanned the document, a will dated over 3 decades ago. The name at the top made her gasp, George Wilson. But it wasn't that which turned her world upside down. It was a specific clause mentioning a child, a daughter born out of wedlock. The mother's name made Olivia stagger. Elena Parker, her own mother. The implications were clear and shocking. Olivia was not just the daughter of a housemaid from the Wilson mansion, as she had always believed. She was the illegitimate daughter of George Wilson, heir to a fortune and legacy she had never known existed. Meanwhile, at the Wilson mansion, Catherine faced her own crisis. Charles, the butler, had finally decided to reveal his suspicions about Sarah. "Madame," he began hesitantly, "there's something I need to tell you about the new housekeeper." Catherine listened with growing horror to the evidence Charles had collected. Sarah's furtive movements, the rifled documents, the suspicious phone call. But it was the mention of a flash drive that made Catherine pale. "Did it contain everything?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Charles nodded gravely. At that moment, Catherine knew that the house of cards she and her late husband had built was about to collapse. Jason, unaware of the developments at the mansion, was engrossed in his own investigation. His search led him to a small cafe downtown, where he was about to meet with an anonymous informant who promised to reveal secrets about Empire Oil. The man who sat across from him was the last person Jason expected to see, Michael Thompson, introducing himself not as a federal agent, but as a former associate of George Wilson. "You're playing with fire, Mr. Reed," Thompson said calmly, "but maybe you're exactly what we need to crack this case open." Sarah, aware that her cover was hanging by a thread, intensified her efforts. She knew she had little time before Charles or Catherine acted against her. In a frantic race against the clock, she scoured the darkest corners of the mansion, looking for the final piece of the puzzle. It was in a secret compartment behind a painting in Catherine's office that she found it: George Wilson's journal. The pages were filled not just with details about Empire Oil's illegal operations, but also personal confessions, including the mention of a daughter he could never publicly acknowledge. Olivia, still reeling from her discovery, decided to confront the only person who could have answers: her mother. Eleanor Parker, now an elderly woman living in a nursing home on the outskirts of town, greeted her daughter with a mix of love and apprehension. "I always knew this day would come," Elena said softly. In the minutes that followed, she unraveled a story of forbidden love, sacrifice, and secrets kept for decades. "George wanted to acknowledge you," Elena explained through tears. "But the scandal would have destroyed everything, not just for him, but for many innocent people involved in the family's business." As these revelations unfolded across Oakville, each character found themselves at a crossroads, forced to reassess their loyalties and the paths they would take. Amidst a backdrop of betrayal, uncovered truths, and shifting alliances, the intricate tapestry of connections woven over the years began to unravel, promising profound changes for everyone caught in its threads. At the police station, Agent Thompson was briefing his team for the final operation. Maps of the Wilson Mansion and Empire Oil headquarters were laid out on the table, with red dots marking the entrances and exits. "Remember," he instructed his agents, "our goal isn't just to arrest the guilty, but to dismantle the entire network. Every document, every hard drive, every piece of evidence is crucial." As the team prepared, Thompson couldn't help but think about Jason Reed and the role he might play in the critical hours ahead. Catherine, sensing the walls closing in, made a drastic decision. She invited Jason for a private dinner at the mansion. As Charles set the table with the finest china and silverware, Catherine gazed into the mirror, wondering if she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life, or if she had finally found someone she could fully trust. Little did she know, at that very moment, Olivia was on her way to the mansion, determined to confront the woman who, unknowingly, was her stepmother. As night fell over Oakville, the players in this intricate drama moved into their final positions. Jason, torn between his ambition and his newfound conscience, headed toward what he believed to be a decisive evening with Catherine. Olivia, bearing the weight of her new identity, approached the mansion that could have been her home. Sarah, hiding in a dark corner of the property, prepared to make her escape with the incriminating evidence. And in the police cars discreetly stationed on adjacent streets, Thompson's agents awaited the signal to move. The stage was set for a showdown that promised to unveil decades of secrets, lies, and betrayals. As the lights of the Wilson mansion glowed against the darkness, illuminating the immaculate gardens and ornate windows, no one inside or outside its walls could predict how this night would end. But one thing was certain: when the sun rose over Oakville the following morning, the city and the lives of everyone involved would be forever changed. The Wilson mansion, once a symbol of power and elegance, now seemed like a besieged fortress. Inside its walls, Catherine prepared for the dinner that could change everything. As she adjusted her pearl necklace, a gift from George during happier times, she reflected on the events that brought her to this moment. Her mind drifted back 30 years to when she was just Catherine Prescott, an ambitious young woman working as an executive assistant at Empire Oil. It was there she met George Wilson, a visionary man whose passion for success matched her own. Catherine recalled the first time George invited her to his home, this very mansion. "I have big plans," he said, his eyes gleaming with a mix of ambition and something darker. "And I need someone by my side who understands that sometimes we must make difficult choices for the greater good." That night, George revealed the true nature of his business. Empire Oil was merely a front for a vast network of illegal operations involving corrupt politicians, international cartels, and money laundering schemes. Catherine had to choose: recoil in horror or embrace a future of unimaginable wealth and power. She chose the latter, sealing her fate. Meanwhile, in his apartment, Jason prepared for his meeting with Catherine, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. He picked up a small box from his drawer, a ring he had bought for Olivia months ago, before ambition consumed him. The object now seemed to belong to another life, a painful reminder of the man he used to be. Jason thought about his difficult childhood, growing up in a poor neighborhood in Oakville, always looking enviously at the mansions on the hill. He remembered the promise he made to himself. One day, he would be the man on the hill, looking down. Now on the brink of achieving that dream, Jason wondered if the price was too high. As the clock ticked towards the evening rendezvous, both Catherine and Jason stood on the brink of pivotal decisions, each weighed down by their past choices and uncertain futures. In the silence of their respective contemplations, the night held its breath, pregnant with the possibility of redemption, ruin, or revelation. Only time would tell which path they would ultimately choose. In the city archives, Olivia continued her frantic search for answers. Each document she unearthed revealed more layers of Oakville's dark past. She discovered records of suspicious transactions involving Empire Oil dating back decades, coinciding with the company's meteoric rise. But it was a particular set of documents that stopped her, her heart racing. Medical records of her mother, Elena Parker, from 30 years ago. The papers detailed complications during pregnancy and delivery, with handwritten notes from a doctor mentioning Mr. Wilson's intervention and absolute discretion necessary. Olivia felt a wave of nausea as she realized the implications. Her own existence was intertwined with the dark secrets of the Wilson family. At the police station, Agent Thompson reviewed the Wilson case files for the 100th time. His obsession with this case dated back to the beginning of his career when he was just a rookie officer. Thompson remembered the night he was called to investigate a car accident involving an executive from Empire Oil. The scene seemed too perfect, too well arranged. It was there that his suspicions began, leading him to a decades-long investigation that consumed his personal and professional life. Now, on the brink of finally unraveling everything, Thompson couldn't help but wonder how many lives were destroyed along the way, and how many more would be affected when the truth came to light. Sarah, hiding in her room at the mansion, prepared for her escape. As she hastily packed, she reflected on the events that brought her to this point. Born into a middle-class family, Sarah, whose real name was Amanda Foster, had been recruited in college by a secret government agency. Her mission was to infiltrate the highest echelons of corporate and political power to expose systemic corruption. The Wilson mansion was the pinnacle of her career, the case that could change everything. But as the years passed, the lines between right and wrong, between her true self and her persona, had dangerously blurred. As these revelations unfolded, each character was pushed to the brink, forced to confront their pasts and the uncertain futures before them. The interconnected stories, filled with betrayal, sacrifice, and the quest for redemption, reached a critical juncture. With the truth set to erupt, the stage was set for a dramatic confrontation that promised to reshape Oakville and the lives of everyone entangled in its web of secrets. Charles, the butler, moved silently through the mansion's corridors, his steps echoing decades of loyalty and secrets. He recalled the day George Wilson hired him, not just as a butler, but as the keeper of his most shadowy secrets. "Charles," George said on that occasion, "what you will see and hear in this house must remain within these walls. Your discretion will be generously rewarded, but know that the price of betrayal is higher than you can imagine." Over the years, Charles had witnessed countless secret meetings, dark dealings, and occasionally the brutal consequences for those who dared to challenge the Wilson empire. Now, with George dead and Catherine teetering on the brink, Charles wondered if his loyalty had been to the right people. At the nursing home, Elena Parker gazed out the window, her thoughts drifting back to a long-buried past. She remembered the young and charismatic George Wilson, how he made her feel special, promising her the world. Elena relived the moment she discovered she was pregnant, the mix of joy and terror she felt. George's promises to care for her and the child were followed by the harsh reality of being secluded secluded, hidden from public view to protect the Wilson family's reputation. Elena caressed an old photograph hidden in her nightstand, a picture of baby Olivia, secretly taken by George during one of his rare visits. "Forgive me, my daughter," she whispered to the photo, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. As these fragments of the past resurfaced, both Charles and Elena grappled with their roles in the tangled web of secrets that bound them to the Wilson. Charles, questioning his loyalties, faced a decision that could redefine his legacy. Meanwhile, Elena, weighed down by regret, longed for redemption and hoped that Olivia could forgive her for the choices made under duress. With the impending revelations poised to cast a light on hidden truths, they were both drawn into the swirling currents of change, where long-held secrets could no longer be concealed, and every action held the potential to reshape the future. As the night progressed, each player in this intricate drama moved toward an inevitable convergence. Jason, driving to the mansion, his heart torn between ambition and a growing sense of guilt. Olivia, determined to confront Catherine and claim her inheritance, bearing the weight of a newly discovered identity. Sarah, ready to make her final move. Years of undercover work poised to culminate in a decisive moment, and at the center of it all, Catherine Wilson, the last keeper of secrets with the power to destroy lives and reshape the future of Oakville. The Wilson mansion, imposing on its hill, seemed to watch the city below with an omniscient gaze. Its walls held secrets of forbidden love, rampant ambition, and betrayals spanning generations. As the city lights flickered in the distance, the mansion awaited the unfolding of events that would reveal its long-hidden truths. The stage was set for a showdown that promised not only to disclose the past, but also to shape the future of everyone involved. The night was just beginning, and with it, the denouement of a saga of manipulation, power, and redemption that would echo for generations to come. Agent Michael Thompson parked his car discreetly a block from the Wilson mansion. His years of experience led him to choose a vantage point with a clear view of the main entrance, but far enough not to raise suspicion. As he watched Jason Reed arrive, Thompson reflected on the complexity of the case. It wasn't merely about arresting criminals, it was about dismantling an entire system of corruption deeply rooted in Oakville's fabric. He knew the coming hours would be crucial and that every move needed to be calculated with millimetric precision. Inside the mansion, tension rose as the players took their positions. Catherine, dressed for the dinner that might alter her destiny, prepared for the meeting with Jason, unsure whether he was ally or adversary. As Olivia's car approached, determination fueled her resolve to confront the woman she now knew as family. Meanwhile, Sarah, navigating the mansion's hidden spaces, clutched the evidence that could dismantle the Wilson legacy and expose the truth. Outside, Thompson prepared his team for the eventuality of chaos, knowing that when dawn broke over Oakville, nothing would ever be the same. Inside the mansion, Catherine Wilson put the finishing touches on her appearance before dinner with Jason. Her face, although impeccably made up, couldn't completely hide the deepening lines of worry that formed with each passing hour. She knew she was about to make a decision that would change not just her life, but potentially the fate of the entire city. Trusting Jason was an enormous risk, but Catherine felt she was running out of options. As she adjusted her pearl necklace, a constant reminder of her late husband and the secrets they shared, she heard the doorbell ring. The moment of truth had arrived. Jason, standing at the mansion's entrance, felt his heart race. He was about to step into a world he had always dreamed of joining, but recent revelations left a bitter taste in his mouth. The discoveries about Empire Oil and the Wilson family's illegal activities placed him in a precarious position. He could use this information to secure his place beside Catherine, or he could do the right thing and collaborate with the authorities. The image of Olivia flashed through his mind, a painful reminder of what he was about to sacrifice for his ambition. As Charles opened the door, Jason took a deep breath, knowing the decisions he would make tonight would shape not only his future, but that of many others. Charles, ever the observant butler, noted Jason's demeanor as he stepped inside. The young man carried an air of determination, mixed with uncertainty, that reminded Charles of his own entry into this world so many years ago. As he escorted Jason to the drawing room where Catherine awaited, Charles found himself silently rooting for the young man to make the right choice. In the drawing room, Catherine rose to greet Jason, masking her anxiety with a practiced smile. "Welcome, Jason," she said, gesturing for him to sit opposite her at the elegantly set table. The room was filled with a tension that crackled like static, full of unspoken words and potential revelations. As they exchanged pleasantries over the initial courses, both were acutely aware of the unspoken agenda that loomed over the evening like a storm cloud. As the conversation turned to more serious matters, Jason hesitated, searching Catherine's eyes for a hint of the woman behind the carefully maintained facade. "Catherine," he began, "I need to know the truth about Empire Oil, about everything." His words hung in the air, the culmination of his internal struggle between loyalty and integrity. Catherine sighed, her eyes momentarily dropping to her plate as she considered how much to reveal. "Jason," she replied slowly, "there are things about this family, about our business, that are complicated." She paused, choosing her words with care. "But I'm willing to trust you if you can do the same." In this moment of vulnerability, both were acutely aware that the course of events unfolding in Oakville hung in the balance. As the evening wore on, outside forces moved inexorably toward the mansion, each player ready to stake their claim to the truth. The night held its breath, waiting for the scales to tip, for actions to speak louder than words, and for secrets long buried to finally see the light. Meanwhile, Olivia Parker drove frantically through the city, her car filled with documents and evidence she had collected. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions: anger at the lie her life had been, fear of what she was about to face, and a fierce determination to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. She didn't know exactly what she would do upon arriving at the Wilson mansion, but she knew she could no longer live with doubts and secret. The revelation of her true identity as George Wilson's daughter had turned her world upside down, and she was determined to confront Catherine and claim what she believed was rightfully hers. In the back room of the mansion, Sarah, or Amanda, as her real name was, made the final preparations for her escape. Years of training and discipline had prepared her for this moment, but she couldn't deny the tremor in her hands as she stored the collected evidence in an encrypted storage device. Her mission was nearly complete, but she knew the next few minutes would be the most dangerous. One mistake, one moment of carelessness, and all her work could be undone. Worse still, her life would be in danger. Sarah took a deep breath, centering herself. She had a plan and was ready to execute it, no matter the obstacles. Charles, the butler, moved silently through the mansion's corridors, his keen eyes picking up every detail. He noticed Jason's arrival, the tension on Catherine's face, and Sarah's stealthy movements. Years of service had honed his instincts, and he sensed that something significant was about to happen. His loyalty to the Wilson family had been unwavering, but for the first time in decades, Charles wondered if he had chosen the right side. The recent revelations had shaken his convictions, and he found himself at a moral crossroads. Should he continue to protect the secrets he had sworn to keep, or was it time to break his silence and do the right thing? At the police station, Agent Thompson's team was on high alert. Monitors displayed live feeds from security cameras strategically positioned around the Wilson mansion and Empire Oil headquarters. Undercover agents reported suspicious movements, while analysts worked frantically to process the latest incoming information. Thompson knew they were nearing the critical moment. He had staked much on this operation, including his career and reputation. The weight of responsibility was immense. A single misstep could not only compromise the investigation, but also put lives at risk. As the night wore on, tensions at the Wilson mansion reached fever pitch. Catherine and Jason sat down to dinner, each carrying their own secrets and agendas. The conversation flowed superficially, but both could feel the electricity in the air, the sensation that something monumental was about to happen. In the mansion's gardens, undercover agents moved stealthily, closing in ever tighter. Sarah, taking advantage of the dinner distraction, prepared to make her final move, and Olivia, arriving at the property's gates, gathered the courage to confront the past and claim her future. The city of Oakville, seemingly calm under the night sky, was on the brink of a storm. Years of secrets, lies, and manipulations were about to surface, threatening to destroy reputations, fortunes, and lives. Every player in this intricate drama moved towards an inevitable collision point, their actions in the coming hours determining not just their own fates, but the future of the entire community. Inside the mansion, each person felt the weight of the impending revelations. Catherine, aware that her empire was crumbling, knew this night could alter the course of her life forever. Jason, caught between ambition and morality, faced choices that would define his future. Sarah, with her mission nearly complete, was poised at the brink of exposing the truth. Meanwhile, Olivia, with years of deception unraveling before her, was ready to demand the answers and justice she deserved. And all the while, Thompson and his team watched from the shadows, ready to act the moment the first domino fell. As the clock ticked down, Oakville stood at the precipice of transformation. Every secret, every hidden truth was about to cascade into the open, forever changing the landscape of power and trust in this once quiet town. The night promised not only revelations but a reckoning where courage and conviction would be tested and the past's shadows finally brought into the light. As the clock ticked inexorably forward, the Wilson mansion became the epicenter of a plot intertwining personal ambition, corporate corruption, and long-buried family secrets. The stage was set for a confrontation that promised to expose Oakville's hidden truths, testing loyalties, challenging moral convictions, and forcing each individual to face the consequences of their past choices. The night was far from over, and the events that would unfold in the coming hours were destined to forever alter the course of Oakville's history and the lives of all involved. The dinner at the Wilson mansion reached a critical point when Catherine, her hands trembling, set her wine glass down on the polished mahogany table. "Jason," she began, her voice barely masking the tension, "there's something I need to tell you." At that moment, the piercing sound of the doorbell sliced through the air, interrupting her confession. Charles, the butler, hurried into the dining room, his normally impassive face now a mask of concern. "Madam," he said, "Miss Olivia Parker is here. She insists on speaking with you immediately." The shock of Olivia's unexpected arrival was quickly eclipsed by the chaos that ensued. As Catherine and Jason rose, stunned, Olivia stormed into the room, her eyes alight with a mix of anger and determination. "It's over, Catherine," she declared, throwing a folder filled with documents onto the table. "I know everything about my father, about Empire Oil, about the lies that have defined my entire life." Jason, caught between the two women, felt his world tilting. He glanced from Olivia to Catherine, the realization of just how out of his depth he was finally hitting home. Catherine's face shifted from surprise to a steely resolve, knowing that this reckoning had been inevitable. "Olivia," she started, her voice steadying, "there's more to this story than you know. Your father, he believed in protecting you, in his own way." But Olivia, her resolve unshaken, cut her off. "No more excuses, Catherine. For once, I want the truth." As the tension in the room mounted, the delicate balance of power and secrecy that had held the Wilson legacy together began to unravel. Outside, in the shadows of the sprawling gardens, Thompson's team listened in, ready to move at a moment's notice, understanding that the scales of justice were tipping. And as these personal dramas played out within the mansion, the night's promise of revelations and reckoning loomed ever larger, threatening to sweep away the fictions that had kept Oakville's truth at bay for so long. In this moment of palpable tension, Sarah chose to make her move. Taking advantage of the distraction caused by Olivia's arrival, she slipped out of her room, the storage unit containing crucial evidence hidden in her bag. She was almost at the back door when Charles intercepted her. "I believe you have something that doesn't belong to you," he said calmly, blocking her path. Sarah's training kicked in. In one fluid motion, she drew a gun from her ankle, aiming it at Charles's chest. "I'm sorry," she murmured, "but I can't let you stop me." In the mansion study, Agent Thompson, who had discreetly infiltrated the chaos, frantically searched through files and drawers. He knew he had only minutes before his presence was noticed. Then he found it, a safe hidden behind a painting. With nimble fingers, he began working on the combination, his heart pounding in his chest. The sound of approaching footsteps spurred him to quicken his pace. Back in the dining room, the confrontation between Catherine, Olivia, and Jason reached its climax. "You stole my life," Olivia shouted, tears of anger streaming down her face. "Everything I believed to be true was a lie." Catherine, her composure finally cracking, sank into a chair. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Everything I've done, every choice I've made was to protect you." Jason, feeling like an intruder in a family drama, attempted to intervene. "Olivia, please, let me explain." But before he could continue, the sound of a gunshot echoed through the mansion. A chilling silence followed the gunshot, reverberating through the halls and rooms like a wave. Sarah, startled by the noise, hesitated for a critical moment, giving Charles the opportunity to regain his footing. His eyes held a complex mix of emotions: betrayal, duty, and perhaps a flicker of understanding for the young woman who stood before him. In the study, the gunshot amplified Thompson's urgency. He finally cracked the safe, revealing documents that could unravel the Wilson empire. But with the noise reverberating through the mansion, he knew time was running out. Every second counted as he gathered the papers, aware that discovery was imminent. Back in the dining room, the shot had pulled Catherine and Olivia back to reality, their confrontation momentarily forgotten in the wake of this new uncertainty. The look on Jason's face mirrored their shock, a testament to the unpredictable forces now at play within the Wilson mansion. The night, thick with suspense and unveiled truths, pressed forward, with each actor locked into their path as the threads of this intricately woven tale continued to unravel. As tensions peaked, the mansion stood as both a fortress of secrets and the crucible from which a new reality for Oakville might emerge, leaving no participant unchanged by the night's events. The gunshot came from the kitchen, where Sarah and Charles were locked in a tense standoff. The shot, fired accidentally during their struggle, hit no one, but was the catalyst for total chaos. Federal agents, who had been positioned around the property, stormed the mansion. Agent Thompson, alerted by the sound of the gunfire, abandoned his search in the office and rushed toward the commotion. In the midst of the confusion, Jason made a choice. Seeing an opportunity to escape with some incriminating documents he'd noticed on Catherine's table, he attempted to flee, but Olivia, anticipating his betrayal, blocked his path. "It's over, Jason," she said, her voice cold with disappointment. "No more lies, no more game." In that moment, Jason saw in Olivia's eyes not just the woman he had betrayed, but also a reflection of who he could have been if he had chosen a different path. Catherine, watching her world crumble around her, made one last desperate attempt to maintain control. She stood up, regaining some of her former dignity. "You don't understand," she declared, her voice echoing through the room. "What we've built, what we've protected goes beyond individual. It's about power, about shaping the future." But her words fell on deaf ears. Agent Thompson entered the room, followed by his team. "Catherine Wilson," he announced, "you are under arrest." As the agents moved towards Catherine to take her into custody, the reality of her downfall finally settled in. The empire she had fought so hard to protect was unraveling before her eyes, and with it, the lifetime of manipulation, secrecy, and ambition that had defined her existence. Across the room, Olivia and Jason stood amidst the fallout of their respective choices, the weight of their decisions pressing heavily upon them. For Olivia, the confrontation brought a strange sense of closure, mixed with the poignant realization of the cost of truth. For Jason, it was a moment of reckoning, a chance to reflect on the paths not taken and the integrity he had sacrificed. In the kitchen, Sarah, still shaken by the encounter with Charles, wondered what the future would hold for her and whether her mission's completion had truly been worth the personal cost. Meanwhile, Charles, standing firm, felt an unexpected surge of relief, knowing that the secrets he had protected for so long were finally seeing the light. With the occupants of the mansion now under the watchful eyes of the law, Oakville stood on the cusp of significant change. The night had delivered its revelation, dismantling structures of power and deceit that had long gone unchallenged. As dawn approached, the residents of Oakville would awake to a new reality, one where truth had finally found its place, and where futures would be rebuilt on the foundations of what had been exposed. As agents began to search the mansion, collecting evidence and securing suspects, a surreal scene unfolded. Sarah, disarmed and handcuffed, was led outside, her gaze briefly meeting Thompson's, a silent understanding passing between them. Charles, the loyal butler, watched everything with a mix of resignation and relief, decades of secrets finally coming to light. Olivia, still trembling with adrenaline from the confrontation, found herself standing beside Jason, both watching as Catherine was led away. "What happens now?" Jason asked, his voice low and defeated. Olivia looked looked at him, years of love and recent betrayal weighing in her gaze. "Now," she replied, "we face the truth, all of it." As the night wore on, the Wilson mansion, once a symbol of power and prestige, transformed into a crime scene. The lights of police cars illuminated the pristine gardens as agents came and went, carrying boxes of evidence. In the town below, the first reports of the scandal began to spread, promising to shake Oakville to its foundations. Dawn found the protagonists of this drama in varied states of reflection and regret. Catherine, in her cell, confronted the collapse of everything she had built. Jason, released after intensive questioning, wandered the streets, a man lost between who he was and who he could have been. Olivia, exhausted but determined, began the process of discovering her true heritage and identity. And Agent Thompson, finally seeing years of work come to fruition, prepared for the legal battles ahead. As Oakville stirred awake, the new day heralded not just the dawn, but the beginning of a reckoning. The revelations from the Wilson saga promised to reshape the community's landscape, forcing its people to re-evaluate their past and look towards an uncertain but potentially more honest future. In the aftermath of the night's events, the mansion stood as a silent testament to ambition and its costs, while the town braced itself for the ripple effects that truth's exposure would inevitably bring. The Wilson family's saga and the dramatic downfall of Empire Oil had come to a pivotal end, but the reverberations of their actions would continue to shape Oakville's future for years to come. Secrets were exposed, lives irrevocably altered, and the line between right and wrong had never seemed so thin. As the town awoke to a new reality, one thing was clear: nothing in Oakville would ever be the same again. The chaos that erupted in the Wilson mansion reached fever pitch when, amid the confusion of federal agents storming the premises and suspects being detained, a voice cut through the air like a sharp blade. "Nobody move!" shouted Alberto, the otherwise quiet gardener of the estate, now wielding a device that looked alarmingly like a detonator. The ensuing silence was deafening, all eyes turning to the man who, until that moment, had lingered in the shadows of events. Alberto, his slender figure visibly trembling under the weight of the moment, moved to the center of the room. His eyes, once always lowered and submissive, now shone with a feverish intensity. "You think you know everything," he began, his voice laden with bitterness, "but you have no idea how deep this rabbit hole really goes." With a swift motion, he removed a wig and contact lenses, revealing a face that made Agent Thompson gasp in recognition. "Impossible," murmured Thompson, his mind racing to connect the dots. "You are Robert Davenport. You were supposed to be dead 20 years ago." The name made Catherine pale, her legs buckling under the weight of the revelation. Robert Davenport, George Wilson's former partner, whose mysterious death had been the catalyst for the meteoric rise of Empire Oil. The room stood frozen, the unexpected twist turning the already tumultuous night into something resembling a lurid thriller. Catherine, grappling with the truth, could barely fathom the implications. Robert Davenport, alive and standing before her, was a specter from the past no one had anticipated, potentially harboring the power to unravel the entire Wilson Empire story from yet another angle. As Davenport, alias Alberto, stood with the makeshift detonator in hand, the full weight of his presence registered. It wasn't just about revenge or exposure. It was about rewriting history and reclaiming a legacy that had been unlawfully usurped. The agents, now alert and cautious, began to close in, their training compelling them to de-escalate the situation without sparking the possible disaster hanging over their head, quite literally. For the residents of Oakville, waking up that morning would mean awakening not just to a day after scandal, but to the beginning of a saga whose tendrils reached back decades and whose resolutions would echo forwards, shaping the lives of generations to come. As the town held its breath, the Wilson mansion again became the stage for a dramatic showdown, one that now truly promised to change everything. Robert, or Alberto as he had become known, laughed bitterly. "Death? No, Agent Thompson. Transformation, reinvention. While all of you played cat and mouse, I was right here under your noses, orchestrating every move. He raised the detonator, his eyes sweeping the room. This mansion, this monument to greed and corruption, is rigged with explosives. One wrong move and we take all of Oakville's secrets to the grave. The atmosphere in the room shifted drastically. Agents who were moments away from taking action now stepped back cautiously. Olivia, her face a mask of shock and confusion, looked at Catherine. "Did you know about this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Catherine, for the first time that night, appeared genuinely surprised and frightened. "No," she replied, her eyes fixed on Robert. "This is beyond anything I could have imagined." Jason, seeing an opportunity amid the chaos, tried to stealthily inch toward the exit, but Robert, his senses honed by years of constant vigilance, noticed him immediately. "Ah, the ambitious Mr. Reed," he mocked. "Thinking of escaping with the secrets you've gathered? Not so fast." With a gesture, he made Jason freeze in place. In that moment of high tension, the room's occupants were acutely aware of the precariousness of their situation. Agent Thompson, assessing the volatile circumstances, signaled his team to hold their positions, realizing that any aggressive move could trigger a disaster. The tactical advantage they sought shifted dramatically, turning the standoff into a delicate game of patience and negotiation. Olivia, gathering her wits, spoke again, this time addressing both Robert and Catherine. "What is it all worth?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear. "The lies, the betrayals, where does it end?" Her question hung in the air, resonating with everyone present, a poignant reminder of the human cost hidden beneath layers of scheming and deceit. Robert, hearing Olivia's plea, hesitated for a moment, the hardened exterior of a man driven by vengeance, cracking just slightly. "It ends when justice is finally served, when those who wronged me pay the price," he replied, though a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. The agents, seizing on the pause, exchanged quick glances, ready to exploit any shift in Robert's resolve. But the room remained still, each second stretching into eternity as Oakville's past and future collided in one explosive reality. In the silence, the ghosts of choices past seemed to whisper, urging all those in the mansion to face the truth, however harrowing it may be. As the sun began to peek over the horizon, casting long shadows through the mansion's grand windows, Oakville stood on the brink, poised between destruction and redemption, waiting for the next move in this unfolding saga. Agent Thompson, years of training kicking in, stepped forward with his hands raised in a calming gesture. "Robert, let's talk about this. There's no need for more violence. We can find a solution." But Robert just laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "Solution? The only solution is to bury the truth so deep that no one will ever find it." It was in this moment of extreme tension that Sarah, still handcuffed but with years of crisis training, decided to act. With a swift and precise move, she launched herself at Robert, aiming for the detonator. What followed were seconds of pure chaos. Robert, caught off guard, struggled to maintain control of the device. Agents and civilians alike dove to the floor, fearing an imminent explosion. In the midst of the confusion, Charles, the loyal butler, did something unexpected. With surprising agility for his age, he quickly moved to a hidden panel on the wall. His fingers flew over a concealed keypad, entering a complex sequence. Suddenly, metal doors descended, sealing all exits from the mansion. "What have you done?" Catherine shouted, her voice a mix of anger and fear. Charles, his face a mask of determination, replied calmly, "Emergency protocols, madame. No one leaves until we resolve this." The atmosphere shifted dramatically once more, the newfound containment heightening the stakes. With the exits sealed, the occupants of the mansion were forced to confront the unfolding drama head-on, with no escape route available. The metallic clang of the doors echoed ominously, underscoring the gravity of the situation. Robert, momentarily stunned by the turn of events, found himself locked in a struggle with Sarah, grappling for control of the detonator. The agents, recovering from their initial shock, quickly assessed the situation, positioning themselves to intervene at the first opportunity. Olivia, finding herself involuntarily caught in the unfolding drama, watched as the layers of deception and loyalty unraveled around her. Her eyes met Charles's, and in that fleeting exchange, she saw not just a servant, but a protector, someone who understood the stakes and was willing to take radical steps to prevent disaster. As the seconds ticked by like hours, the residents of the mansion were pressed to reckon with their past choices and the explosive revelations that had brought them to this juncture. Thompson, ever the tactician, saw an opening as Sarah and Robert's struggle reached its peak. With a quick nod to his team, he prepared to act. In those tense moments, with Oakville's most hidden truths dangling at the brink of exposure and closure, the players in this high-stakes game faced a defining decision: to continue the pattern of deception or to step into the uncharted territory of honesty and redemption. The dawn light filtering through the mansion's windows painted everything in stark, vivid detail, as if to highlight the weight of the choices before them and the profound implications for all involved. The stage was set for resolution, but whether through peace or further conflict remained to be seen. The struggle between Sarah and Robert reached its height. The detonator flew from their hands, skidding across the polished floor. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, everyone in the room watched frozen as the device spun and spun, finally coming to rest at Olivia's feet. Olivia, her mind a whirlwind of emotions and revelations, glanced at the detonator and then at the faces around her. Catherine, the woman who had hidden the truth about her origins for so long. Jason, the man she had loved who had betrayed her. Robert, a figure from the past, resurrected to threaten everyone's future. And Agent Thompson, embodying a justice that always seemed a step behind the truth. With trembling hands, Olivia picked up the detonator. "Enough," she declared, her voice gaining strength with each word. "Enough of lies, enough of manipulation. It's time for the truth, all of it, no matter how painful it might be." The silence that followed was heavy with tension and possibilities. Every person in the room, every player in this complex drama was now at the mercy of Olivia's decisions. The next words, the next actions would determine not only the fate of those present, but the future of all Oakville. As the clock on the wall marked time's relentless passage, the Wilson mansion, once a symbol of power and prestige, had become a pressure cooker ready to explode. Long-buried secrets, loyalties tested to their limits, and the promise of a devastating truth hung in the air like a storm about to break. In the charged atmosphere, Agent Thompson took a cautious step forward, his voice gentle yet firm. "Olivia, you don't have to carry this burden alone. We're here for the truth. Let us help you bring it to light safely." Olivia, feeling the weight of generations bearing down on her, glanced once more at Catherine, whose eyes now filled with a strange mixture of fear and surrender. The room held its collective breath, knowing that Olivia's choice would redefine their lives forever. The villagers of Oakville, oblivious to the drama unfolding within the mansion's ornate walls, would soon wake to a new reality, a reality in which the past could no longer be ignored. In the dawning light, Olivia stood with the detonator in hand, poised to transform not just her fate, but to recast the narrative of power, identity, and truth that had gripped Oakville for decades. Catherine took a breath, her voice breaking the silence. "We can start anew," she proposed, the admission costing her more than anyone realized. Olivia, though, knew there was no easy path forward, but there was hope, a fragile chance for healing and rebuilding if only they dared to embrace the truth fully. The storm inside the mansion might still rage, but for Olivia, the path forward was clear: courage, transparency, and a commitment to no longer be shaped by the shadows of the past. The legacy of the Wilson name and all it encompassed was poised on a knife edge, waiting for the grace of a woman who had suddenly become much stronger than anyone suspected. The stage was set for the final showdown, a moment of truth that promised to expose the deepest layers of corruption, betrayal, and redemption. As all eyes focused on Olivia, the silent question echoed: what price would the truth demand, and who would be willing to pay it? Dawn found Oakville in a state of collective shock. The first light of day illuminated the exhausted faces of police officers and federal agents emerging from the Wilson mansion, carrying boxes of evidence and a group of detainees who, until the previous night, were considered pillars of local society. Newspaper headlines screamed in bold letters, "Wilson Empire collapses, decades of corruption exposed." At the central precinct, a series of interrogation rooms held the key players of this drama. Catherine Wilson, her usual elegance replaced by an expression of defeat, stared silently at the wall before her. In another room, Robert Davenport, the man who had lived as Alberto for 2 decades, oscillated between bouts of uncontrollable rage and heavy silences. Jason Reed, pale and visibly shaken, recounted his story to a team of skeptical investigators. Olivia Parker found herself in a unique situation. Her decision in the mansion's final moments to hand the detonator to Agent Thompson and reveal all she knew placed her in an ambiguous position. She was both a victim and a key player in resolving the case. Seated in a waiting room, an untouched cup of coffee in her hands, Olivia reflected on how drastically her life had changed in a matter of hours. The atmosphere in the station was thick with tension and anticipation. As the investigation unfolded, the complexity of the web that bound these characters began to unravel. Catherine's stoic facade hid a woman grappling with the collapse of her carefully constructed world. Robert's eyes burned with the intensity of a man whose years of plotting and concealment had ultimately led to a public unmasking. In contrast, Jason's demeanor was one of a man caught in over his head, struggling to reconcile his ambition with the harsh realities now confronting him. Each person held a piece of the puzzle that had taken years to assemble, and now its disassembly threatened to redefine the town's future. For Olivia, there was a bittersweet relief in the aftermath. She had been thrust into a maelstrom not of her making, yet with courage and a desire for the truth she had navigated through. Her journey of self-discovery had led her to confront not just the events surrounding her, but also her identity and the legacy she had inherited. As Oakville braced itself for the repercussions, both local and far-reaching, the dawn signaled not just the end of one saga, but the beginning of a new chapter. The community, once driven by secrets and power plays, now stood at a crossroads where integrity and transparency could potentially lead the way to healing and renewal. In the quiet of the waiting room, Olivia resolved to chart a course through this new terrain, guided by the values she held dear. With each decision she understood came the opportunity to mend what was broken and reinvent what might be. In the wake of the Wilson Empire's demise, there lay a chance to rebuild Oakville into a place where honesty and justice would no longer be mere aspirations, but everyday realities. Agent Michael Thompson, exhausted yet triumphant, coordinated the largest operation of his career. Forensic teams scoured every inch of the Wilson Mansion and Empire Oil offices. Bank accounts were frozen, documents seized, and a network of corruption spanning decades began to unravel. Yet, amidst the frenzy of the investigation, Thompson couldn't help but ponder the broader ramifications of the case. How many lives would be affected? How deeply would this revelation shake the power structures not just in Oakville, but beyond? In the days that followed, the town experienced a whirlwind of emotions and revelations. Former Empire Oil employees stepped forward with their own stories of coercion and reluctant complicity. Local politicians, fearing implication, began making public confessions, hoping for clemency. The mayor of Oakville, in an emotional press conference, announced his resignation and pledged full cooperation with the investigations. The community was caught in a seismic shift, grappling with the abrupt collapse of an empire that had long dominated its landscape. Many residents felt a mix of betrayal and vindication as hidden truths came to light, challenging long-held perceptions and alliances. Throughout the turmoil, Thompson remained a steadfast presence, guiding the case with a firm yet compassionate hand. He understood that beneath the surface of scandal lay a complex tapestry of human experiences, people whose lives had been woven into the Wilson narrative in ways they never imagined. His task now was not only to bring justice, but to offer a path to healing for a town wounded by deception. Public forums and town hall meetings became arenas for discussion, with citizens eager to engage in shaping a new future for Oakville. Community leaders, educators, and civic activists emerged, eager to rebuild trust and foster transparency. The journey of recovery would be long and fraught with challenges, but the willingness to move forward with integrity provided a glimmer of hope. For Olivia Parker, the revelations led to a deeper understanding of her identity and place within the community. Her role in dismantling the Wilson legacy became a catalyst for personal growth, empowering her to advocate for positive change. She found herself at the forefront of a movement aimed at transforming Oakville into a beacon of honesty and resilience. As the investigation continued, uncovering layers of fraud and malpractice, it became evident that the case's impact reached far beyond Oakville. The fall of the Wilson Empire served as a cautionary tale, prompting introspection within corporate and political circles across the region. In the end, Agent Thompson, Olivia, and the people of Oakville faced a daunting yet promising task: to learn from the past while courageously embracing the promise of a better, more transparent future. Together, they embarked on a mission to redefine their community's narrative, proving that even from the depths of scandal and corruption, renewal and integrity could be restored. For Sarah, whose true identity as an undercover agent was revealed, the end of the operation brought mixed emotions. Her work had been crucial in uncovering the case, but the years of living a double life had taken a toll. She found herself struggling to reconnect with her true identity, questioning the choices she had made and the lines she had crossed in the name of justice. The life she had adopted in Oakville was more than just a cover. It was a chapter of her life filled with genuine connections and personal sacrifices. Charles, the butler whose loyalty to the Wilson family spanned decades, found himself at a moral crossroads. His decision to activate the mansion's security protocols, effectively preventing everyone from escaping, was seen by some as a final act of loyalty and by others as a betrayal. Now, facing his own charges of complicity, Charles began to reflect on the true meaning of honor and duty. His role as a guardian of the family's secrets had been both a privilege and a burden, leading him to re-evaluate his allegiance and life choices. Jason Reed, confronted with the consequences of his unchecked ambition, embarked on a painful process of self-reflection. The long hours of interrogation and the looming prospect of a prison sentence forced him to confront the person he had become. In moments of clarity, he wondered if he could ever redeem himself in Olivia's eyes and his own. The path to redemption seemed daunting, yet he realized it started with acknowledging the harm he had caused and genuinely working toward making amends. Each of these individuals, bound by their involvement in the Wilson saga, faced uncertain futures but also had the opportunity for profound transformation. As Oakville began to heal and redefine itself in the aftermath of scandal, they too pondered their next steps in a world where the truth had finally been set free. Sarah considered returning to her roots in law enforcement, using her experience to mentor others who walked the line between duty and ethics. Charles mused over finding ways to serve the community, perhaps through sharing his rich stories and lessons learned in service. Meanwhile, Jason contemplated how he could rebuild his life with authenticity and integrity at its core. For Olivia, witnessing their struggles and growth was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. She understood that while their paths diverged, the shared experience of navigating through lies and betrayals united them. Together, they embarked on journeys towards healing, forgiveness, and ultimately, redemption. Oakville, once clouded by deceit, stood at the brink of a new beginning, with its people ready to forge a future guided by honesty and courage. Catherine Wilson, the fallen matriarch, faced not only the destruction of her empire, but also the collapse of her carefully constructed identity. Visits from lawyers and plea bargain negotiations mingled with moments of deep introspection. She began to keep a journal, an attempt to make sense of her life and the choices that led her to this point. The act of writing became a therapeutic process, allowing her to confront her past actions and ponder the possibility of change. For Olivia, the days unfolded as an emotional roller coaster. Confronted with the truth about her lineage, she struggled to reconcile the image she had of herself with this new reality. Visits to her mother, Elena, in the nursing home became moments of painful yet necessary connection as both worked to rebuild a relationship based on truth. Olivia found solace in these meetings, gaining strength from her mother's support and beginning to forge a new path founded on honesty and understanding. As the weeks passed, Oakville slowly began the process of healing and rebuilding. Initiatives for transparency were launched, new leaders emerged promising integrity, and the community came together to discuss how to move forward. The Wilson case became a turning point, a moment that would define the town for generations. Community events and forums became regular occurrences, providing a platform for residents to voice concerns, share ideas, and propose solutions for a brighter future. At the heart of it all, each of the key players faced their own journey of redemption. Catherine, in her cell, began to consider using her knowledge and remaining resources to repair some of the damage done. She contemplated the possibility of contributing to social causes or creating programs to aid those affected by corporate greed and corruption. For the first time in years, Catherine looked beyond her own desires and began to see the potential for positive impact. Jason, facing a long sentence, decided to cooperate fully, hoping that honesty could be the first step in a long path to redemption. He dedicated himself to assisting the ongoing investigation, revealing further insights and documentation that would aid in dismantling the remnants of deceit embedded in Oakville's institutions. Sarah, freed from her double life, began working with organizations that support undercover agents, helping others cope with the unique traumas of living a lie. Her experience in Oakville became a powerful story of survival, resilience, and ultimately the pursuit of personal truth. Her new role offered a sense of purpose, guiding agents as they transitioned back to their true selves after years of assuming identities not their own. As Oakville moved towards renewal, these personal odysseys intertwined with the town's evolution. Collectively, their struggles and transformations served as a testament to resilience and the capacity for growth and forgiveness. Through their individual and collective actions, they contributed to a future built on the values of transparency, integrity, and community, a legacy that promised to redefine Oakville for the better. Olivia, perhaps the most transformed by the entire experience, found a new purpose. Leveraging her newly discovered heritage and personal experience, she established a foundation dedicated to promoting corporate transparency and supporting victims of financial fraud. Her work became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even from the ashes of corruption, something positive could flourish. Olivia's foundation quickly gained recognition, attracting support not only from within Oakville, but also from neighboring communities looking to prevent similar incidents from occurring. Agent Thompson, with the case that defined his career finally coming to a close, faced his own existential question. What would come next? How could he use this experience to effect broader changes within the system? His reflections led him to consider taking a more active role in reforming investigative practices and educating the public about corporate corruption. He envisioned workshops and seminars that would empower communities to recognize and combat fraud, thus fostering a culture of vigilance and accountability. As autumn arrived in Oakville, bringing a change in the colors of the leaves and an air of renewal, the town and its residents began to look to the future with a mix of caution and hope. The wounds were still fresh, the challenges many, but there was also a palpable sense of opportunity, the chance to rebuild something better, fairer, and more transparent from the ruins of the old regime. Community initiatives sprang up, inspired by Olivia's foundation, focusing on education, environmental sustainability, and ethical business practices. Residents who once felt powerless under the shadow of the Wilson Empire now found their voices, participating in town meetings and proposing innovative solutions to long-standing problems. This period of transformation allowed Oakville to redefine itself, embracing the values of its resilient citizens and fostering an environment where integrity was not just an aspiration, but a reality. The collaboration between local leaders, citizens, and organizations painted a promising picture of what was possible when a community united for positive change. For Olivia, Agent Thompson, and others deeply involved in the Wilson case, their journeys mirrored the town's evolution. They emerged not only as survivors of a tumultuous time, but as pioneers leading the charge towards a future where justice and transparency were foundational principles. Together, they helped ensure that Oakville's story was no longer dominated by shadows and secrets, but by clarity and hope for generations to come. The Wilson saga had ended, but its reverberations continued to shape Oakville and the lives of all involved for years to come. It was a powerful reminder that the pursuit of redemption and justice is an ongoing journey, full of challenges, but also ripe with possibilities for growth and transformation. 5 years had passed since that fateful night at the Wilson mansion, and Oakville, though transformed, continued its journey of recovery and renewal. On an autumn afternoon, Olivia Parker walked through the newly inaugurated Transparency Park, a green space place in the heart of the city, built on the site where the imposing headquarters of Empire Oil once stood. The park, with its informational plaques detailing the history of Oakville and the events leading to the fall of the Wilson Empire, served as a constant reminder of the past and a promise for the future. Olivia paused in front of a wooden bench where a familiar figure awaited her. Jason Reed, recently released after serving part of his sentence, stood up to greet her. His face, thinner and marked by time, carried an expression of humility previously uncharacteristic of him. "Thank you for coming," he said softly. Olivia nodded, sitting beside him. The silence between them was heavy with years of unspoken history. Jason took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the vibrant park before settling back on Olivia. "I wanted to see this place," he began, gesturing around. "A place that stands for everything I once took for granted." Olivia listened, allowing him the space to express the thoughts that had undoubtedly been brewing within him. The journey from the shadows of Empire Oil's downfall to this moment in the park was marked by introspection and learning, a process that had been as painful as it was necessary. "I'm proud of what you've done here," Jason continued, his voice gaining a note of sincerity. "This park, your foundation, it's a testament to resilience and integrity, something I wish I had realized sooner." Their conversation flowed, gradually bridging the gap created by betrayal and time. Olivia spoke of her work with the foundation and how the community had embraced the lessons of the past to foster a culture of transparency and fairness. Jason shared his hopes for rebuilding his life and contributing positively based on the hard-won lessons learned from his mistakes. The setting sun cast a golden hue over the park, symbolizing hope and renewal. Olivia and Jason, once bound by ambition and deception, now found common ground in their desire to rebuild and make amends. Their interaction, long overdue, was a step toward healing old wounds and forging a new chapter in their lives. As they parted ways, the feeling of a shared understanding lingered between them, along with a mutual acknowledgement of the paths they had traveled. The park, a living tribute to Oakville's commitment to truth and justice, stood as a beacon of what could be achieved when a community chooses to learn from its history. The journey of recovery and rebirth that started with the end of the Wilson Empire continued to shape the future of Oakville. Through perseverance and a commitment to change, the town and its people demonstrated that even from the darkest of shadows, light and redemption could emerge, paving the way for a brighter and more hopeful tomorrow. "How is the foundation?" Jason asked, breaking the silence. Olivia smiled slightly, her eyes lighting up. "Growing more than I could have imagined," she replied. "We're helping families affected by corporate fraud across the country now." Jason nodded, a mix of pride and remorse in his gaze. "You were always stronger than I gave you credit for," he admitted. As they talked, reminiscing about the past and cautiously discussing possibilities for redemption, Agent Michael Thompson walked by them, nodding discreetly. Now the director of a new FBI division focused on corporate crimes, Thompson carried with him the lessons learned in Oakville. He was heading to a lecture at the local university, part of his ongoing efforts to educate the next generation about the importance of integrity in business and politics. At the state prison, Catherine Wilson sat in her cell, the last rays of autumn sunlight filtering through the bars. Her hair, now completely gray, framed a face that had lost its former hardness, replaced by an expression of contemplative resignation. She leafed through the pages of a manuscript, her memoirs written during the long years of confinement. The book, to be published next month, promised to unveil the final secrets of the Wilson Empire, not as a justification, but as a warning to future generations. Catherine's transformation was a testament to the passage of time and reflection. The writing of her memoirs had been a cathartic process, allowing her a means to unearth and confront the motivations and missteps that had defined her life. The narrative not only chronicled the rise and fall of Empire Oil, but also offered insights into the personal journey that led her from uncompromising power to a state of humility and self-awareness. Meanwhile, in Oakville, the town continued its journey of renewal, buoyed by initiatives that emphasized community engagement and ethical governance. The town's dedication to moving forward while remembering its past became a model for other communities grappling with similar issues of transparency and accountability. Strolling through Transparency Park, Olivia and Jason considered the park's significance significance not only as a symbol of change, but as a constant reminder of what they needed to uphold. Their conversation carried under the lengthening shadows of the trees, grounded in a shared understanding that while personal and communal histories are complex, they are ultimately written by choices made in the present. Agent Thompson, emboldened by his expanded role, used the Oakville case as a cornerstone for discussions on enforcing corporate responsibility and pursuing justice in a modern, interconnected world. His work in crafting robust frameworks to prevent future abuses reflected the transformative power of Oakville's story. As the sun set on another day in Oakville, the town stood as a beacon of resilience and possibility, its history both a caution and an inspiration. The lives of its residents intertwined with the town's fate, committed to forging a legacy rooted in truth, integrity, and the enduring belief that positive change is always within reach. Sarah, now known again by her true name, Amanda Foster, was running a support center for undercover agents and their families. Her experience in Oakville had transformed her into a powerful advocate for better practices and psychological support for those living double lives in the service of law enforcement. That afternoon, she was leading a group session, helping others navigate the unique challenges she knew so well. The center she established focused on providing comprehensive support, ranging from counseling services to workshops on coping mechanisms, ensuring agents received the care and understanding they needed upon returning to their true identities. Charles, the former butler, spent his days in a retirement home on the outskirts of town. His health had deteriorated rapidly after the events at the mansion, the weight of decades of secrets finally taking its toll. However, he found peace in conversations with Elena Parker, Olivia's mother, who resided in the same institution. The two, united by a shared past, found mutual comfort in reflecting on life and the choices they made. Their conversations became a cherished routine, providing Charles with a sense of belonging and understanding amidst the twilight of his life. In the town center, the new mayor of Oakville, elected on a platform of transparency and renewal, inaugurated a memorial dedicated to the victims of corporate corruption. The monument, an abstract sculpture of glass and metal, reflected the setting sun, creating a kaleidoscope of colors, a symbol of the complexity and beauty that can arise even from the darkest circumstances. The memorial served as a poignant reminder of Oakville's past, while celebrating the collective commitment to a more transparent and just future. The sculpture quickly became a gathering place for the community, hosting educational events, remembrance ceremonies, and dialogues on ethical responsibility. Residents often visited, reflecting on how far their town had come and pondering the lessons learned. Amanda's work resonated beyond Oakville, inspiring law enforcement agencies to implement similar support programs, recognizing the importance of addressing the psychological toll on agents. Her advocacy and personal story highlighted the imperative for organizational change, fostering a culture where the well-being of undercover agents was prioritized alongside their mission. As Charles and Elena continued to share stories and reminisce, they realized how interconnected their lives and choices had been, forging a bond that transcended the trials they faced. Their friendship became a testament to the enduring human capacity for forgiveness and understanding. For the people of Oakville, the monument was not just a tribute to those lost to the shadows of corporate greed, but a beacon for a future guided by integrity and shared responsibility. It encapsulated the essence of a community committed to learning from its history to build a future defined not by past mistakes, but by insights gained and commitments forged. As night descended upon Oakville, the city's lights flickered on one by one. From afar, the town looked almost unchanged from 5 years ago, but for those who knew its story, each light represented a tale of loss, learning, and in many cases, redemption. Olivia and Jason, having finished their conversation, rose from the bench. "Do you think we'll ever truly get past all this?" Jason asked, his voice a blend of hope and doubt. Olivia looked out over the city spread before them, pensive. Get past it? Maybe not, she replied. But to learn, to grow, and to build something better. That's what we're doing every day. As they walked away, each heading their own path into the encroaching night, the legacy of the Wilson family and the events that shook Oakville lingered. It was a constant reminder that the story of a town, like that of an individual, is not defined by its darkest moments, but by how it chooses to rise and move forward. In the quiet of the evening, Oakville stood as a testament to resilience. The townspeople, still grappling with the shadows of the past, found strength in their shared commitment to integrity and a brighter future. Buildings once tainted by whispers of dishonesty now housed new ventures, rooted in ethical practices and transparency. For Olivia, each day was a step towards healing, driven by the memory of what once was and the vision of what could be. Jason, too, embraced the journey of reconciliation with his past, determined to contribute positively to the community he had once let down. The stories of transformation and redemption echoed in the halls of the newly built community center, where citizens gathered to share, to learn, and to support each other. In workshops and town meetings, the lessons of the Wilson era continued to shape conversations, informing decisions with the wisdom of hindsight. The narrative of Oakville evolved with every sunrise, each dawn bringing new opportunities to redefine its identity. Underneath the stars, the town's renewed spirit was palpable, a collective testament to the enduring human capacity for change and betterment. And so, as the lights of Oakville twinkled against the night sky, the town embraced its future with cautious optimism, ready to write the next chapter of its story. One illuminated not just by the glow of street lamps, but by the light of hope, redemption, and an unwavering commitment to a future built on truth and trust. As the lights of Oakville shone against the darkened sky, each one told a story of resilience, second chances, and the perpetual quest for redemption. The town, once defined by secrets and corruption, was now becoming a beacon of hope and transparency. Although the scars of the past remained visible to those who knew where to look, the future stretched out before them, filled with possibilities yet to be written. Thus concludes our saga in Oakville, a tale of ambition, betrayal, revelation, and ultimately, redemption. It serves as a powerful reminder that even in the darkest hours, there is always the possibility of light, of transformation, and of a new dawn. The community's journey, marked by introspection and renewal, paints a vivid picture of the human spirit's capacity to overcome adversity. Oakville stands as a testament to the idea that the past, while it shapes us, need not define us. Through collective effort and unwavering determination, the town redefined itself, emphasizing integrity and openness as its guiding principles. As the chapter closes on Oakville's turbulent past, its story continues to inspire, urging communities everywhere to strive for honesty and resilience. The narrative reminds us that redemption is not just an endpoint, but a continuous process, one that invites growth and opportunity at every turn. In this evolving town, where every light illuminates a path to betterment, the people of Oakville look forward with hope, ready to embrace the next steps in their shared journey towards a brighter, more transparent future. And don't forget, like this video, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss more emotional stories like this one.